I know it's still early and things can change, but there's a really good video made by TheTacticalBrit who made a detailed video showing what areas of the map you should avoid. The map is color coded to show which areas you should have the most success in, marked in green, which areas are most likely to be a toss-up, I'll label them as 50-50 areas, marked in blue, and the red areas are where your chances are at their lowest. This markup was done by TheTacticalBrit recording his own progress as well as watching a few streamers. We can sit here and talk about how accurate or inaccurate it may be, but I do feel that does depend on the kind of lobbies you get, and how skilled a player you are. Regardless, this is still a good baseline to get an idea. Also, using this map, we can see clearly a large flaw with the map flow and the points of interest. Link to his original video is in the description below and the info box on screen. Before we begin, I do want to state that Warzone has been my favorite battle royale to date. I have had the most time playing on Warzone than any other battle royale. That itself is a massive achievement as I'm not a fan of most BRs. BRs tend to have a fair amount of RNG, and I'm just not a fan of losing due to random factors. Warzone did a great job limiting this, and the game felt very consistent. However, with broken metas and this new map change, the game has become very inconsistent. Yes, I wanted a new map, we've been in Verdansk for way too long in my opinion. But I'm sorry to say that if I knew that Caldera was going to be the next map, I would have said no. BRs like Warzone should change over time, preferably more than once every 2 years for a new map. But Caldera is a major step back in many ways. So now, I'll give my own reasons for why I dislike the map, and include some similar feedback I share with TheTacticalBrit along the way. First off, Caldera was made as its own map, Verdansk was not. Allow me to explain. If you look at almost any point of interest in Verdansk, each one acts like its own level or map. What this did was give players a large version of what a Call of Duty map would look like. We also got to play in most of these areas as well in Modern Warfare 2019, through the Ground War game mode, as well as the occasional deathmatch or limited time modes in Warzone. So each area, more or less, in Verdansk was built to work on its own. You toss them into one larger map and you have pretty much everything ready to go. This makes the overall map feel better or more comfortable. There isn't a need to learn each area because you already had the chance to play them before, to some degree. Each map was built to work within a boundary so it doesn't trail off to a dead end. Of course, putting good areas on a large map doesn't make it perfect, they still have to be stitched together to make rotations work well. Now we look over at Caldera, and well, there's a lot of dead zones in this map. Just empty, open areas with a lot of foliage and rarely any true hard cover. Peak, being more or less the center of the map, also has the worst rotations. So once you've cleared out that area, you're generally at a disadvantage when you rotate out of it. It's not to say it doesn't work, and yes, pro players land there all the time. But there is a big difference between the regular or casual player and those whose job it is to play the game non-stop. By no means was Verdansk perfect, but it was a lot more consistent than Caldera. Going back on topic, the point of interest in Caldera are okay. That is if you can get there. There's a lot more open spaces and hills that split each point of interest in Caldera compared to Verdansk. Not area feels like it would work well on its own. In other words, it just feels like part of the map instead of feeling like a completed section. Add on to where the zones go next could force you to go uphill or downhill towards another enemy team. So we have these small pocketed areas that are worth fighting in with very few safe rotations. This one problem alone is something that will never be fixed, because the problem is not with the point of interest primarily. It's just how the island is shaped and how far each area is from each other. Because of this one issue, rotations are always going to be a problem. The only thing you can do is learn where the safest rotations are and get to them early. Playing within the next zone is going to be key to winning games here. Normally that is common advice for any battle royale, but for Caldera it's pretty much mandatory. My own problems with Caldera are also why I dislike World's Edge from Apex Legends. A large map with some really good areas, but a lot of open ground between them, forcing players to rotate early. Looking back at Caldera, the points of interest are also spaced out and towards the outer areas of the map, so the zone rotations will most likely not end around them. We have a map where the early game, landing on the island, is the only easy part of the match. So you can land in one of these green areas, loot, get a few kills, but then the zone moves and now you have to cross a lot of open ground to get a shot at by squads out of earshot. Or you rotate early and you go the long way around to limit that risk. So is there any hope for Caldera to have better map flow? Not unless they make big changes to the map. Adding smaller points of interest in these abandoned areas and changing the landscape to some degree so there isn't a constant uphill-downhill fight would help a lot. The map would continue to have campers and long-range battles over these hills and in the remaining open areas, but at the very least there would be more options available. The other problem is that the current large points of interest would continue to be ignored, unless the zone locations are changed up and allows them to end closer to those areas more often. or if they do make those drastic changes and make these better areas closer to the center of the map. Regardless, this map isn't for me. I have no desire to play on Caldera. It left a bad taste when I played it a few times, and no amount of rework would get me to play it, other than moving all of these areas around. So I myself will be taking a break from Warzone until the next game. I took some extra time to get as much of my thoughts out here with this video, as I don't plan to cover any Caldera update, other than its inevitable destruction. Until then, I'll continue to review Warzone gameplay, gaming news, and make videos about other things. Feel free to browse the videos in my channel to get an idea of what to expect. With that, I am Mr. Rain, and I will see you in the next one.